What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, where today we're going to dive into the month of June and my top picks for the month of June. You know, obviously here in the South it is definitely very hot. May was actually unseasonably pretty warm, but overall a lot of fish are moving out. There's still fish shallow, so if you're fishing from the bank or you're fishing in a John boat or a smaller boat and you don't have electronics, it's completely fine. I have some picks for you as well, but we're going to go over my top 5 picks right now.
Let's go.
We're here in Mexico. We are in the Dominican Republic. So I'm going to tell you a couple different tips that have helped me over the years.
Wow! Unbelievable! Jacob Wheeler makes history!
Okay, so out of all the things that I think about in the month of June, number one is definitely ledge season. This is the month that those fish get out there on the ledges. You know, they do that in May a little bit, but it's really a lot of fish are out there offshore, where you're fishing ledge fish, like schools of fish, fishing brush piles, stuff like that. This is the month that it goes down more than any other month, I feel like. And what happens is, to give you guys an understanding of this, you know, I will say, like, you know, in Indiana and some of those places, July seems to be the best month, depending on how warm the year is. But there is times they'll get out there in late May. I've seen it happen. So it just depends on the area of the country that you're living in. But at the end of the day, like, this is one of my favorite times of the year, because those fish, when they get out there first off, they're not pressured as much, or if you can find them, you know, first, you can really have some unbelievable days on the water. So as far as techniques that I'm going to suggest, if you're fishing offshore, you know, one's definitely a football jig. If the fish are acting weird, no matter what, half ounce if you're shallower than basically 8 feet. If I'm fishing like 12 to 18, I'll throw a 3/4, and then I'll even bump it up to a 1 ounce if I want to have a faster rate of fall. When I'm fishing really, really deep. Throw some sort of crawl on the back of it. I have a whole bunch of different football jigs, just the one I had tied on today. I always try to play around with it. There's really a lot of them on the market. It just really, the key is having a good hook in them. And then throwing whatever kind of, you know, I like to put like some sort of crawl on there in the back that has a little good tail action. Works well for me. My number one bait, though, hands down, is going to be a crankbait. I mean, I just love throwing a crankbait, especially when they get out there. It gets down there, it makes them react. The key with a crankbait, this is a DT20, this is a DT16. What's such a big deal about a crankbait is it's so efficient. When you get that right cast, those fish, just when they fire up, you can catch them so much faster than any other bait out there, because you can get down there to them so much quicker. And it catches really big ones. And that's what I love about a plug. It just generates bites. You know, I have 2 different colors right here. I have more of a natural color, and then more of, this is citrus and this is green gizzard. And I want to hear your opinion on this as well. Which one do you prefer? More, you know, a brighter color or more natural colors? There's times that one of the biggest colors in deep cranking is a blue chartreuse. But then there's times that I feel like I do a lot better on a more natural color. So personally, for me, I like to have both of them. You know, I've caught them on both. I throw them. Citrus is one of my favorites. It's more of like a toned down blue chartreuse. And then the green gizzard, I feel like if I can burn it through them and they're acting, I think pressured fish, to me, the green gizzard is a better bait, a better color. But you just don't know. So anyway, that's my opinion on it. I do run these on my 7/6 casting rod, my 7/6 cranking rod, that's what it is. I like that one. It works pretty well with overall for deep cranking, and it works really well for throwing a square bill and stuff as well too. So it's a graphite rod. 6/8 to 1 gear ratio reel is what I have on this thing, and I can reel it really, really fast. Pick up a lot of line. 12-pound Suffolk Advanced fluorocarbon. That's just sort of personal preference. I've bumped it up. I've gone as low as 8, and I've gone up as high as 14. So it just sort of depends on the area, what you're trying to get that crankbait down to. But that's number 2 right there, is a deep diving crankbait. You have to have that rigged up if you're going to get out there offshore. Now, switching it up a little bit for you guys. If you're fishing shallow, don't be sleeping on a wacky rig. A wacky rig, Cinco, or, you know, trick worm or anything like that, just generates bites. And what the key with that is for me is there's a bluegill spawn that happens in June and throughout the summertime. And so there's some big fish that are up there shallow. And one of the best, especially when you can see them, one of the best baits you can actually throw is a wacky worm to a lot of those fish. So that's what I like to throw sometimes. It just sort of, it gets a lot of bites. When they're up there around like that shallow grass, or if they're around up underneath some undercut banks, wacky worm's a really good one to go with. If you're fishing from the shore, it still generates a lot of bites, and it's just one that I feel like you can't go wrong with any time of year. So that is my number 3 pick. Put this guy right there. Number 4 is flipping. Okay, so I'm a big fan of a jig. Okay, big fan of a jig. A flipping stick. The month of June, you can get in on some of those Maine lake laydowns, some docks. This is when I really transition. I'm a big fan of a jig, but when I transition to plastic around the spawn, and I transition to plastic in the middle of summer. I feel like sometimes I do better with that. Now, I have 2 different kind of creature baits here, both in the green pumpkin, 3/8 ounce weight. I'm throwing 20 pound, actually 17 pound on the lighter setup and 20 pound on the heavier setup. So if I'm fishing around boat docks, I'm probably throwing 17. If they're really big ones, I might be throwing 20. But then if I'm fishing around like bushes, you can still catch some fish flipping, you know, especially this time of year. And so that's what I'll throw like that. You know, 3/8 ounce weight is typically like a standard in a flipping size weight. I throw like straight chain hook. This is a 4/0 VMC heavy cover flipping hook, or heavy duty flipping hook. And so that's really for me. Depends on the profile. Now I'll flip a 10-inch worm too. If it's really, really hot, I'll flip a 10-inch worm. I like, the one thing if they're eating bluegill, I like this guy. If they're eating, if they want more of a streamlined profile, I'll throw more of like a brush hog style. It just depends. Like, it's more streamlined. So I've always been taught that like in the summertime, the fish really want something that's more narrow. And that's why they eat a big worm a lot of times. And so that's when I'll throw that more of like a brush hog style bait. If I feel like they're eating the bluegill, that little deal right there does a pretty good job of that. So 7.3 if I'm trying to skip, 7.3 heavy, that's what I have. And then a 7.6 if I'm flipping some really heavy cover. So that is the next pick, and I'm trying to think here. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to give you guys one extra one after this one. Would be just a drop shot. A drop shot gets bit up shallow. It's also a really good bait to fish offshore when the fish are out there offshore. One thing that I really like about a drop shot is you can catch big ones on it too, but if they're getting really tough to catch, when you find a school of them, I like to stick with a 1/4 ounce weight typically. This is, you know, for me, 1/4 ounce weight, 10 pound Cyclops Advanced fluorocarbon leader line. This is a 131. I'm actually been throwing 8 pound 131. It's a really high quality line from Suffolk. I've liked it quite a bit. I actually need to refill the spool over here, but it's worked really well. I'm hoping they bring out like a little bit more high vis color to him, which will be great. Now, as far as my setup, 1/4 ounce weight and then 1/4 ounce VMC weight, tungsten weight. I'm throwing like a Finesse Nico, which is basically like if anybody knows like what a rebarb is, it's VMC's version of a rebarb, a little bit thicker hook. So when you're hooking a bigger fish, one problem with a rebarb is you got to take your time with them. It is super ultra finesse. This is basically where you can Texas rig your drop shot like it is right there. So that would be number 5. And then last but not least, I'm gonna say spoons. Spoons are good. You gotta spoon feed them sometimes. And I got a couple different kinds and sizes. So I just wanted to sort of go through that with you guys. This is like a mini mag. There's Magnum spoons. There's ones big, small, you know, wide. There's so many different things. So for me, a spoon is just another bait that you could utilize. And I would even put it in a hair jig as well. That you can utilize this time of year to generate big bites. It's a reaction strike. If the fish are being goofy, if they're grouped up tight, that's when I typically throw a spoon. If you're out all over a place and they're really scattered out, like one here, one there, you're probably gonna have to drag around and catch them. But if they're grouped up really good in the afternoons or in the mornings, a spoon could be a bait that you could generate a big bite. I remember back in the day when a mini mag or a Magnum spoon came out, I caught a few fish and then I brought it home to Indiana. And my wife and I now we won a tournament up on Guy's Reservoir on a mini mag and actually a Magnum spoon. And it's just, again, it's just sometimes each lake, don't think Kentucky Lake or, you know, well, don't think Chickamauga or you have to be on Gunnersville or one of these ledge lakes to actually be able to utilize this technique. This is a technique that works all over the country. Even realistically, I've seen it work. I mean, on northern bodies of water when those fish get out, you know, if they get out on a hard spot or whatnot. So don't sort of just, you know, put this up as a bait that's going to work, you know, on one region of the country. It's definitely something. Now, typically, when selecting my spoon, I look at the forage that the fish are biting. A lot of times on the Tennessee rivers, they're eating bigger gizzard shad, so that's what I'm trying to target the biggest fish in the school. Now, sometimes, this one I think is a talon or something like that. I like that spoon, it looks good, it's heavy. That's sort of just an in-between size. It's a good one if you're gonna go like in between, like a striking or a talon, or I think there's, Nichols makes a couple different ones. That is a smaller nickel, or that's a lake fork actually. Smaller lake fork is a 4-inch, so if they're eating smaller bait, then I want to roll with that. And then if you just want to show them something a little bit different, JMFW, dang, Spoon Jack and Worldwide Spoon. I've not caught that many on this one, but I mean, I just play with it. It comes with a stinger hook already ready to roll. One thing that I will say is if the spoon doesn't come with it, you definitely want to put a swivel on that spoon. Because this is a line twisting son of a gun. So now that one already comes with it, but you know, like this lake fork and this talon is not. So just a quick update on the June fishing. Hopefully your season has been awesome. Hopefully you're catching a few bass. Drop a comment below, let me know how everything's going on the fishing side of things. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a subscribe. If you don't already subscribe to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We enjoy shooting a lot of content and putting out their stuff. Hopefully you learned a little bit something from this video. And if not, I apologize. I'll bring something a little bit different next one. So you just never know what's gonna happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're out.